very special welcome to the unveiling of Humphrey statue. Okay, and this is evidence of the love for Humphrey and specifically for Alwyn, that we have such a fantastic turnout. His son, Humphrey, who has brought an enormous amount of joy to so many people's lives. He has gone to special needs schools, he's gone to homes for the elderly, and every time he goes there, he brings that something special, that joy to people's lives. He has an amazing nature, so that's why he's been able to be at the chemist over the last 10-11 years, and yeah, he's raised this fantastic amount of money for the SPCA. So I'm the self-appointed godfather, okay, and Humphrey and I know each other very well, as evidenced when I walk into the chemist to take him for a walk. He bumps me and won't let me go while I'm trying to talk to Alwyn. But there is a young man who has known Humphrey from when he was a little boy. His name is Laith Akram, and Laith used to come into the chemist with his mom when he was a tiny little boy, and he has remained very, very close to Humphrey, and a youngster who takes Humphrey for walks with his mom. So we're going to ask Laith to say a few words.
Okay, if I can. Okay.
Speak
so
loud.
My name is Laith Akram. I'm very close friends with Humphrey. I've been walking with him for a lot of years now.
At least 10 years.
At least. He's been my closest friend, and he's made me happy ever since I saw him. Because at first I wasn't really sure, but then when I saw him later, we started to make a bond, and it was a bond unlike anything I could ever imagine. And whenever I felt down or angry or fierce or blinded with rage, whenever I saw Humphrey, all that anger and hatred just went. It was gone. And that's why Humphrey's been my best friend ever since then. So yeah, that's what I have to say for this.
You must tell them what you taught him, how Laith is going to tell how he taught Humphrey how to rock and roll.
Yeah,
Except he does more rolling than rocking, huh?
Yeah, he just rolls. Every time he goes on good grass, he just sniffs up a good patch. He just does the rock and roll, pretty much. He just rolls around like this. Like that, but on his back. It's hilarious and funny, but at the same time, it makes me happy to see him happy. So, there's also a zapper on this, and everybody has a phone, so everybody can donate to the statue. Here's the zapper. You just have to scan it, and it will automatically donate 100 Rand to the SPCA, and it will help all the homeless animals.
So I'd like to call on Sarah Richards, who is the sculptor of this incredible sculpture.
But I'm really honoured to be able to have had this chance to have met Humphrey and to make the sculpture. And it's been a privilege and such an amazing journey. When you make a sculpture, it's a process and a journey. You start with a little one, and you go, then enlarge the bigger one. And every time Alwyn would bring Humphrey up to the studio, I'm in the Midlands, and he would, we would take some more photographs and do some more measuring. And it was really such fun, just meeting Humphrey and meeting Alwyn. And I'm so privileged to be part of this whole experience, and all your work and Humphrey's work, we ended up with something that can continue to raise funds for SPCA and awareness for SPCA forever, really. So from a little moment thought, I'm going to do this for the SPCA, to something that's going to be happening forever, and it's just a privilege. And it just makes me realize that we all can do something, even if it's little, to help contribute to the bigger, the greater community that we all part of.
Humphrey and Alwyn, a dedication. Humphrey and Alwyn are a wonderful combination, not just a master and a dog as a pet, an incredible bond as you can get. When Alwyn first set eyes on this mournful chap, he knew he could fill the loneliness gap. These two have improved to be an inseparable pair. Alwyn has shown Humphrey incredible care. When you look into Humphrey's soulful eyes, they melt your heart. It's no wonder Humphrey and Alwyn are never apart. Alwyn had the bright idea of raising money for the SPCA. With Humphrey as a helper, they raised more and more. The two of them are a great duo for sure. By raising funds to help animals in need, they are able so many hungry mouths to feed. Today we are unveiling a statue showing what love and caring can do. Dear friends, we give you praise for the unbelievable amount you've raised. It's a statue not only dedicated to Humphrey, but Alwyn too, for showing what kindness and compassion can do. Let's give a round of applause to these two dedicated pairs who've shown what attainable if we demonstrate love and care.
So I'd like to call on Tanya Fleischer, who's here with us from the SPCA.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for coming out today, this afternoon, for Humphrey's statue unveiling. It's absolutely awesome to be here and to be invited to say a few words. So Humphrey was adopted from our SPCA all the way back in 2011. So it's been 10 years of him being a little ambassador for us. After Alwyn adopted Humphrey, he decided that he could do more and more for the friends that Humphrey left behind. So he spent the last 10 years raising funds, whether it be money that he's donated, blankets, food. Whenever we need something, Alwyn and Humphrey are always there to the rescue. So last year Humphrey became a dog in a million because he reached his 1 million mark. So amazing. And now we have this beautiful statue. So yes, Humphrey is still with us now, but one day when he's passed, the statue will live on forever with a special memory. Yes, and as this young gent said earlier, we've got our little Zapper code on here, so thank you so much, Alwyn, for including that on. It's already raised over 4,000 Rand in donations, so well done.
Fantastic.
So just a huge thank you again to Alwyn and Humphrey for everything you do. We really appreciate it, and it's absolutely incredible. You've been a man and a dog in a million.
Yes. Well, now to hear from the man that's made this all happen over many years, and the incredible love that he has for Humphrey, and Humphrey is really his son. Okay, that's why hence Humphrey Emmerman on the statue. Okay, and Alwyn, please talk to us.
I'll talk as loudly as I can. It's basically going to be a long list of thank yous, because that's what it all entails, is people coming to the party to help. First of all, the lady that phoned into the SPCA 10 years ago saying that there was a lost and lonely dog walking around the streets of Phoenix, and the SPCA had the wherewithal to go and collect him, and they brought him in and looked after him. He was left unclaimed for 7 weeks in the cage. And when I first saw him, I actually thought he was a brown dog. But you can imagine when I bathed him for the first time and he turned into this beautiful grey dog. Anyway, so that's a big thank you to that. And then thank you so much to the SPCA for looking after him for those 7 weeks. And then all this, another thank you goes to Madiba, because I was driving to work and I heard on the radio that Madiba had asked people to donate 67 minutes of their time to the less fortunate. So I thought, well, what about Humphrey coming to work? I'll try and get 10 or a dozen tins of dog food just to go and drop at the SPCA to say thank you for Humphrey. And I must say, at the time when I got Humphrey, for the first 3 months, he had been so badly mistreated in that he just lay under the table. I had to go and sit with him under the table and pet him and gradually brought him out of his shell, but he was frightened of his own shadow when I first got him. And so slowly we got him out of it. And then there must be a big thank you for Umhlanga Medisport Pharmacy, the 24/7 pharmacy where I work. David Fraser, the owner, has allowed Humphrey to come there. He's probably David's best salesman, but that won't say anything about that. But David has been absolutely fantastic in his support, that Humphrey was allowed to stay there. And you know, we get stories, I get emails from a couple in England, and they'll say to me, we'll be in Umhlanga from the 10th to the 14th of November. Can we book the 3 o'clock walk? And I always send them an email back and say, let me check his diary and I'll get back to you. And then all the generous donors, all you people around here, you've all been so generous, because that's where it all comes from. And just a couple of incidents I'd like to point out that's happened along the way. There was this hairdresser in Umhlanga, and she was a real battler. She wasn't making a living. She left the shop one day after buying a few pills, and she came back 10 minutes later. She said, Alwyn, I've just found 300 Rand lying on the pavement outside. So I said, well, I'll keep it here. If nobody comes, then you can come and get it. She says, no, if no one comes for it by tomorrow, I want you to put it into Humphrey's box. So that was a lady that virtually could have done with that 300 Rand a lot more than any of us could do. The one time, there was the little girl Sophie. I think she was about 7 at the time. She asked her mom if she could have a garage sale to raise money for Humphrey. So mom went through and found a few old pots and pans that they didn't do, and they set up this table outside on the pavement in Umhlanga. And Sophie seemed to be busy the whole afternoon, and eventually at 5 o'clock, when mommy came down, said, Sophie, I see you were very busy. Did you sell everything? She said, yes, and then some. So what do you mean? We went into the pantry. Sophie had been running into the pantry and taking the groceries and selling boxes of toasties or whatever, tins of peas for R1 to all the people that were passing by. So by herself she raised 700 Rand. It was probably about 7,000 Rands worth of stuff that she did. And then there was one time, I walk Humphrey most mornings. We love to see the sunrise here in Umhlanga while most of you people are fast asleep. It's the most beautiful sight in the world. Anyway, we were walking along Ridge Road, and I see this Rolls Royce come flying past us. And he goes for another 100 yards, and his brake lights come on. And he reverses back, and he stops, and he says, excuse me, is that Humphrey? So I said, yes. He rolls down the window. He says, I'm sorry, I've only got 200 Rand. Please put it in his box, but I'll be in Durban next week and I'll give him a proper donation. So even the Rolls Royce has stopped for Humphrey. And then the one time I took Humphrey to Lelucia Primary, and they have one fundraiser term. And they asked the children if they could each bring 5 Rand so no one's embarrassed or anything like that. Anyway, we left Humphrey's box, which is there in the corner. If you guys want to make any donation, or go straight to SPCA. I left the box there, and the kids brought their 5 Rands. And when I went back a couple of days later to count the money, Humphrey had broken the school record. And there were little notes inside. Mary did her homework early to get extra money. Johnny washed the car. This one did that. And these kids have done jobs around the house to raise extra money for Humphrey. So they broke the school record. And then there was, we ran an article in one of the Sunday papers, and this guy walked into the shop that I'd never met before. And he said to me, I read your story, it was very nice, I'd like to make a donation. So I said, oh, well, the bottle's in the corner there, thank you. carried on working, and I looked up and he was still standing there. So he says, no, you don't understand, that bottle's not big enough. I said, what? So he said, no, give me your banking details. So he ended up giving 10,000 rand.
Wow.
And I phoned Tanya at SPCA and told her about it, and she said, you won't believe it, this week we ran out of blankets. So instead of the normal food that we buy, well, Humphrey was able to buy blankets for a big percentage of all the dog cages at the SPCA. I also like to thank all the walkers that come in and take Humphrey for a walk, because he does his bit. He does the watering of all the gardens in Umhlanga. I'm sure you've noticed how nice and green they are. That's because of Humphrey. He does the watering of the gardens. So that's something to be thankful for. And then as we get closer today, my friend is Ian here, Ian Falconer. Anyway, Ian is an architect, and once we got going with the statue, I asked Ian to assist me to build the base and everything like that. So he said to me, where are you going to put it? So I said, well, I've got to go to the Parks Board, and I've got to go to town planning, and he says, no. He says, I'll tell you where you're going to put it. He phoned Wayne from Cabanas, and between the two of them, in 5 minutes, this was the place for the statue, they decided. So we had nothing to do. And thank you so much, Ian. And part of Ian's thing, he arranged for Wayne Smith to do the construction of the base, which Wayne, Ryan. Ryan was the granite guy. Paul built the base, and then Ryan came and both of them donated their services and the granite and everything. And Mr. Sidney Lazarus donated the copper for the actual statue. So there's been so many people helping along the way. It's quite amazing. I also wanted to thank Laith, but we've done it already, how he taught Humphrey to rock and roll. Except now, Laith, whenever you take him for a walk, he needs another bath, because he comes back full of grass. Humphrey also got a very important increase in donations after they ran the story on TV that was sponsored by Adcock Ingram. It was called The Brave, and it was people working through COVID, and we raised a lot of money for Humphrey through that TV program that they ran, Adcock Ingram ran. And then I've got a very dear friend at the back there, Mr. David Loynes, the ugly one with the cap on. David and I go back so many years. When Moses was a boy, that's when we met. And David gave a very generous donation for Humphrey to reach his R1 million. And I want to thank him personally in front of you guys that he made that donation. And then I don't know, is Selwyn still here?
No, he had a meeting.
Oh, yeah. All right, no. And I just want to say, Selwyn walks with me every morning. For 10 years he's been walking, and every morning Humphrey always passes a tribute to the way the country's being run. And then I have to pick it up and dispose of it. Unfortunately, Selwyn hasn't helped me once in the 10 years. And then Humphrey has never ever shown any aggression whatsoever, except one night. We closed up the pharmacy at 9 o'clock, and I was walking up the hill to go to my parking, and all of a sudden Humphrey stopped dead in his tracks, and he swung around and jumped up on his hind legs and let out a roar that the Lion King would have been proud of. And there was this guy that was hiding between the cars reaching for my wallet. Wow. And I could hardly hold the leash. Humphrey was so cross. And eventually the guy just ran away. But Humphrey refused to turn his back on the scene. He walked backwards all the way to the car, watching where this guy was. So I sent a thing to Scotland Yard, but they haven't phoned me back. I thought Humphrey could have got a job at Scotland Yard, but it didn't happen. Anyway, and then to end off, thanks again, everybody. But we must keep this thing rolling for SPCA. You know, during this lockdown and during those riots, some nights they land up with 60 dogs and things like that, and they never claimed. People get retrenched, they can't feed their animals, and it's so easy. You put the dog out the front gate and you phone the SPCA and you tell them there's a dog in the street there, and all of a sudden it becomes their responsibility. So you guys must remember that it's a very, very good cause. And Wayne here from Cabanas, thank you once again for this beautiful position. We couldn't have asked for a better place. It's just one thing somebody said, we need a street light here. In the evenings when people come, it's too dark for them to read the thing. If you can speak to the UIF, yeah.
Thank you everyone for coming to support Elwyn and Humphrey. Okay, the one thing that wasn't mentioned, is the impact of the statue with the Zapper sign. As Elwyn told me, in the first 4 days that the statue was up, they had 1,000 hits on that Zapper sign. And it's quite remarkable. Okay, so whenever you're coming past and you've got your cell phone with you, please take a pic of the Zapper sign and donate whatever it is. Please remember that Humphrey's box is there behind you, and if anybody wants to make a donation for the SPCA, please feel free to do so. Thank you, Elwyn.